Good afternoon and welcome back, everyone, to the Thriving Business Podcast. Hi there, Sam.
Hello, Kate.
You're back in Melbourne. I'm back in Perth after spending a week together in Bali, which was so much fun.
Oh, yes. I've come back to the freezing cold. Like, Melbourne was pretty mild before I left. Had a beautiful week in Bali, and I've come back, and Jack Frost has been out playing every day. And send me back to Bali, please.
Oh, I know. It was very nice to be in the warmth for a week, wasn't it? Just feeling
Yes,
wearing t-shirts and lazing in the pool with a cocktail in hand. So yeah,
definitely.
we were very fortunate to have a week together. Also, yeah, there was a period there where you weren't sure whether you were going to be able to join us in Bali, but it all came together last minute, and you were able to make it happen, which was very exciting.
Yes,
Mm. And
yes.
so we spent a week together planning for a business, and most of the ladies that were there had said beforehand that they needed to really recalibrate, realign, pivot, figure out, the new clear direction that they want to follow, because they were all feeling a little bit swirly and stuck. Is that how you would say you were feeling, Sam?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we both know the value of doing the inner work,
Mm.
but you get a certain way down the road in your business, you really have to circle back and repeatedly go over that inner work,
Mm.
because I knew going that I wanted to discover some things that I knew I wasn't sure about.
Mm.
And you've got to pull yourself out of your existing environment, and your retreat's the perfect place to do it. Pull yourself out of your existing environment and put yourself somewhere else, and have people asking you questions that you need to really think about and answer.
Mm.
And that,
Yes.
for me, that was the retreat that you delivered.
Yeah. And having to answer those questions that gave you new insight and clarity.
Oh, yes.
Mm.
Yes. So much clarity. And it's the hard part is discovering that there is misalignment in your business, and now you've got to do the work to get everything lined up the way you feel inside it should be. So yeah, I've got a fair bit to do now. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm on the same path, because as a part of the process, I figured out that I'm the same. I've got because when we asked ourselves the question of what do we give yourself permission to want, what you truly want, because we often
Mm,
just plan for what we think we can have or achieve. But if you actually ask yourself, what do I truly want? And then it's like, well, I actually want to be running my business like this. And
yeah.
it's like, okay, but you're not doing that right now. So how do you bridge the
Mm,
gap? And I discovered I'm doing the same thing. I think both of us realize that ultimately we want to be operating our business differently, in terms of both of us are coaching, we're business coaches now and we love what we do, but that's not the end destination that for you, it's the consulting into businesses and helping them
mm.
um, you harness the power of simple, wasn't it? We figured out was
Yes.
your essence, your why is because you believe business can be simple or should be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the universe always gives us what we need, not necessarily what we want, but what we need.
Mm.
And I had a session with a client yesterday, a new client, and it was fascinating to me that she, I went into the session with the usual, questions that I asked to get to know who the person is behind the business and that sort of thing, so that I can consider what kind of direction I might recommend or guide or whatever. And this lovely woman had actually spoken to numerous people. I won't say the number, but in the past 18 months, she has had quite a few of sessions, and spoken to advisors and family and friends and all the rest of it. And she had actually been told the same advice across the board. And then she lands in front of me after speaking to this many people, and she lands in front of me, and I am always trying to remain curious. And I was curious as to why people were telling her the same thing over and over, and it was not aligned with what she wanted.
Mm.
And the sense of relief she had when I said, don't do that. You're not feeling it. You're procrastinating. You're avoiding. You're feeling overwhelmed. It's not who you are. Don't do that.
Mm.
And she was like, oh my God, thank you. You're the
Mm.
first person that said there is an alternative. And I don't just say don't do that and leave it there. I'm like, these are the alternatives that you had, but you've never been presented with all of that. And I'm
Mm.
going to segue because one of the things that she had been convinced to do was invest a lot of money in SEO.
Right. Yeah, which is the topic that we wanted to touch on today. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
I feel like that client has beautifully tied up all of these little pieces of the client, the inner work, and diving into SEO. But the thing is that without the alignment, investing in things like SEO,
Mm.
can bring you the wrong people or
Mm.
can be really ineffective.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, we wanted to touch on SEO today because it's a topic that comes up a lot, and a lot of clients struggle to understand what it is. Do they need it? How should they do it? How should they approach it? How much should they invest? All of these sort of questions. So we thought, you and I are by no means SEO experts, but we know
No.
enough to sort of guide people in the general right direction towards experts and give them sort of enough guide rails so that they don't get taken advantage of and so on. But tell us a bit more about this as maybe to get the conversation on SEO started. Tell us about this client and what she was told and what you've advised otherwise and how that's led to her journey with SEO.
So, what she was advised that she was resisting was that she just had to write blogs. She had invested in SEO. The messaging wasn't clear because she wasn't clear.
Mm.
So, the messaging on her website wasn't clear. She'd invested in SEO. It wasn't doing anything for her because everything was just mismatched. The messaging was, like the website's beautiful. It was beautifully done. Aesthetically, it looked lovely. But I was like, you stand outside of that, the person that you really want to work with, like, are they reading that going, that's me, that's me? And I'm talking about website design here, but it all starts with understanding your messaging and the language that you need to use and the way you speak. Because where this ties in so importantly with SEO is that if you don't understand the language and what words you need to use, then if you're going to hire people to do SEO, you need to be able to tell them, these are the words we use, these are the type of people I want to attract, because they can't do their job properly unless you understand all of those things.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot, but we see this so often, just businesses not getting the foundation right, which is just, you can get
Yes.
a beautiful website and it looks great and there's generic messaging there, but it's not cutting through the noise and really hitting home and inspiring. It's not clear. And yeah, that getting those foundations right is so important. So what is
Yeah.
the profession? I know you can't, because of confidentiality. Are you able to give us insight into what kind of profession this client, what field she's in?
She is in the field of, I'll give it very broadly, of coaching.
Right, okay. Yeah, and coaching, I see this so much in coaching. There's a lot of if someone goes to a website designer, they get generic messaging on their website and then they're told to go and write blogs and all that. But as you and I know, there's a million coaches out there, and you've got to get really clear on the specific problems you solve and the language you need to speak with to resonate, and that then determines, as you said, all the topics you blog about. There's the internet is full of just content. There's agencies pumping out blog content all day, every day for clients. But how do you make it meaningful? And anyway, that's another whole topic we could do on messaging. We could probably do a whole, podcast episode just on getting the messaging piece right, because it is fundamental. But what you're saying is SEO is really hard to do well unless you get that fundamental messaging piece right, because the messaging determines the keywords that are important for your website and your clients that might be looking for you.
Absolutely, yes. And I mentioned earlier, I think I spoke about it before we started recording today, but if you've done any kind of competitor research or looked at industry leaders, they're actually ranking for literally thousands of keywords. And so that can feel a little bit overwhelming, but this is where you've got to really understand your business for SEO to be effective because, like you and I teach similar things, Kate, in that one of the first things you've got to understand is what you're going to be known for because that's going to be really important for the SEO.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we, yeah, absolutely. And I've struggled with this over the years. Am I a marketing coach? Am I a business coach? Am I, what is it that I want to be known for? Which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
What do you want? Yeah. Which category? It's almost like which box do you fit in? So that the people that are searching for that can find you. But if we back up a moment and just talk about SEO more broadly, which is obviously search engine optimization. So what we're doing is trying to make sure that if someone is out there and they're looking for the service that we provide, that we are at least showing up on page 1 of Google search results, which depending on the industry is harder for some than others to rank on page 1 of Google. And there's that old saying, where's the best place to hide a dead body? It's page 2 of Google search results.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're not ranking on the first page, it's unlikely that you'll get found, which is really hard when you're up against other. Say she's a coach. Let's just say for argument's sake, she's a life coach. I mean, there's 1,000,001 life coaches out there. So ranking on the term for life coach is virtually impossible unless you've got a lot of money to invest in SEO and doing all the things to get on page 1. So that's where you've got to get a bit more savvy, isn't it? So maybe we could break it down for the audience and just talk about how there's the 3 different sort of umbrella categories of SEO. The first one, which I always advise every business to start with as a bare minimum, is local SEO, which means get your Google business profile registered and up and running and start populating it with reviews. Because if someone's searching for a life coach, say in Melbourne or Mornington Peninsula, where you happen to be, Sam, that's correct, isn't it? You're on the Mornington Peninsula?
Bass Coast Shire.
Oh, Bass Coast Shire. So,
yeah.
Which is different to what I need to get
I stand on the beach and I can look at Mornington Peninsula across the water.
It's the other side. It's the other side of the water. Yeah. Oh, okay. I got that wrong. Yeah. So if someone's looking for a life coach in the did you call it Bass Coast?
Bass Coast, yeah.
Then if you've registered your Google profile and you've got the keywords and someone, literally puts that in life coach Bass Coast, then you want to show up on the page results, right? And you can do that pretty easily and organically just by registering your business with a business profile and making sure you populate it with good content. And the more reviews you can put on there, the more Google will rank you. So that's like the bare minimum. Did you have anything else to say about local SEO, Sam?
I don't know if this is going to get too complex, but one of the things that I think is really important in helping you with local SEO is actually using, you have your Google My Business profile set up, and a really easy thing to do to help with your SEO local ranking is to actually use the app, the Google My Business app on your phone, to post photos and just to post on your business, because that is doing is telling Google every time you do it through the app on your phone, Google's checking your location. They see what, longitude and latitude you're in. And they're going, okay, yes, so that business is actually operating in that location. It's not just about the obvious stuff, but something so simple as snapping a photo and posting it through the Google My Business app is contributing to your SEO.
Well, that's a good tip. Yeah. All right. So, that's a good point. I always advise clients to make sure they're putting content on Google, which can be links to your blogs, it can be photos, but the fact to do it from your phone, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, use the app. Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's a good tip. So local is something that, I mean, the number of people I come across who are even established in 3-5 years in business and beyond, and they haven't got their Google business profile registered. That's just like, get onto it if you can't already, if you haven't already. But the second sort of pillar of SEO after local SEO is what they call technical SEO, which and you and I are not IT specialists, but it's all the stuff you do on page, meaning all your meta descriptions and your keywords on your website oh my goodness, I will get fact checked on this if Mr. Rasper is listening from Design Digital. That is not technical. So organic SEO is the next pillar, which is, in my mind, encompasses the on-page and off-page stuff that you do. So on-page, organic meaning that they're the things you can do that drive organic traffic to come to your website. So that's like getting all, as I was just saying, getting all your meta descriptions correct in the back end, getting your keywords sorted, making sure that your blogs are answering questions that the public is asking. And then you've got off-page, which is anything that you can do to drive traffic organically to your website through backlinks, or what else is off-page? I looked up.
We should actually talk about backlinks too and explain what they are, because people might not know what backlinks are.
Yeah, and they're quite important for website authority and ranking.
They are, very much.
What's your definition of a backlink?
So, like I like the simple explanations. So I just refer to backlinks as if you are a guest on someone's podcast or you write an article as a guest and it is published somewhere that is not your website, that is not one of your platforms, and they link and you're allowed to put your URL in there and it links back to your website, that's a backlink.
Exactly, yeah. So it's anyone referring to your website from outside, which makes Google go, oh, they must have good content on their website because this person's referring them. Yeah, so the more backlinks you can get, the better. And that could be through guest posting or, like you say, podcasting, or anyone that's going to use your website to refer back, which is driving people to your website from someone else's website. And a lot of people will pay for backlinks. So I quite often get people pitching that they'll write a blog so that they can get a backlink on my website to theirs, so that's something to be aware of that you can do. I say when you're starting out, just doing that at every opportunity you can, making sure someone, mentions your website. Brand mentions, social media marketing is sort of off-page SEO because you're driving traffic to your website through social media.
Yes.
And the on-page stuff is things like getting your header tags right, your H1s, your H2s, making sure they've got your keywords, making sure your URL structure is sound. And these are sort of techie things that you do need advice with. And then you've got the third pillar, which is the technical SEO which is actually your site loading speed and your what else? I looked this up before. It's your mobile friendliness,
the hard stuff that you have to really dive into the back end of your website, and some of it involves coding, and like for site load speed you need image compression and all of those sorts of things, which takes a little bit more work and more technical skill to do.
Yeah, and one thing I would say on that is hosting is very important. I've learned over the years. So your site load speed is related to your host and how quickly they can load your website when someone clicks on it. So I remember I was initially hosting with SiteGround in the USA, and they're a great host for startups because it's affordable but it's an American company, and it was taking my site between 7 and 10 seconds to load. And then now I've ended up going with Anthony Rasper at Design Digital, and he's a local company, and and his servers load much faster. So that's increased my site load speed, which increases your Google rankings. So the faster your site loads, the better, the more that Google is going to reward you. And I don't know if, I'm sure you've all, gone to websites and it takes forever to load and you just get impatient and bounce. And that's really not good for your traffic or anything. So getting that hosting part right is important. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I think hosting is very much, people are very, very price driven by hosting, but I want to put to people to consider your site loading speed as you did, Kate, because paying that little bit extra for someone who's going to load your site faster is actually going to be worth a lot more in terms of site visitors and potential customers.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's so important, that one simple thing you can do. It is an investment to get a good hosting company. Yeah, it is a bit of an investment. I think I pay $1,000 a year, potentially, for hosting, and that's not cheap, but it does mean that, they fix anything if there's ever any back-end problems. I did have a critical issue recently and they go in and fix that for you. I mean, yeah, it's definitely something that I feel out of my depth talking about. I'm just trying to give people enough guidance here to be helpful. So in your journey with SEO, Sam, what would you say are the key things that you advise someone to make sure they do, and which parts should they outsource and which parts, are essential versus non-essential?
The technical side of it, I would definitely outsource, because once you start fiddling around with some of that stuff, you can definitely break your website. So definitely outsource the technical. Look, if you're reasonably comfortable with technology, there are some really great apps and like websites that you can sign up with that will do an SEO assessment and give you advice on how to fix things that are wrong. And I know that I certainly have taken advantage of that. And part of the reason why that's been really good is because of the advice they give you around how to fix things. It's enabled me to learn more about SEO. But some of the stuff that you can just do yourself when you're starting out is some of the things that you've already mentioned. So Google's going to look at the structure of your page. So every page must have just one H1 heading.
Just
And
one?
it's looking just one per page. You can't have more than one H1 heading. That's a no-no. That's bad. So Google's like, oh, the structure of that page isn't very good. It's also going to look at, if you think about any organizational chart, that's the way Google's kind of looking at the structure of your page, each separate page on your website. So every page starts with the H1 heading, and then underneath that, you have H2 headings. Now, underneath H2 headings, you might go down a paragraph and then you might have a H3 heading. But so Google is looking to make sure it's got that organizational structure on every single page. Then it's going to look at that H3 heading. Does that make sense sitting underneath the H2 heading? It's going to look at, is there an actual flow here? What we've got to remember is that Google can read words, it can read characters and numbers and symbols, it can't read images. So we're just talking about words here. So it's reading the words and analysing and saying, okay, from H1 to H2 to H3 over here, does that make sense? Is that a good structure? And it's going to score you on that. So that is something you can do for yourself. When you're uploading a blog onto your website, make sure that the name of the blog is the H1, the name of your article is the H1, and then if you've got a subheading or whatever, that's your H2. And throughout your blog, you've got to make sure you use your H2 and H3 headings appropriately when you put your blog in there. I will confess, because I'm not an SEO expert, I do some of it myself. But as you know, I love AI, and this is one of the things that I get AI to do for me. is write meta descriptions and
Mm,
write the alt tags for my images, because every single image you upload, because Google can't see an image,
mm,
it reads the tag. So
yeah.
what you tell Google that's a picture of is very important. But
Mm,
every single image you put on your website needs a different alt tag.
yeah.
That's a lot of like things
Yeah.
to come up with for images, right? So I just get AI to write all of that sort of stuff. I say, this is the title of the blog and this is what it's about, and I
Mhm.
need a meta description and I need alt tags, and like I tell it everything I need. And one thing I have learned is that different CMSs, different content management systems like WordPress and Squarespace and Wix, and depending on where you're putting stuff on a website, they will allow a different amount of characters. It's If I'm on an SEO site and it's a setting, it'll say, oh, it's too short or it's too long. But then when I go to, like, for example, WordPress, it won't let me have that many characters. It's going to
Mm,
penalize me. So I kind of go with what the website allows. But yeah, I say it's got to be so many characters long, and I just get AI to do it for me.
mm.
Now, I know that that's not going to be $1 million SEO, but to my mind, putting something in there is better than having nothing. And having something in there as an alt tag for an image instead of image 1 or image 2, it's certainly better than nothing.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's a great tip because AI is available to us now, whereas it wasn't, 5, 6 years ago when you and I were
Yeah.
first building our website. Yeah, and so that's a great tip, is to use ChatGPT or Claude or any of those to
Mhm.
help you develop your meta tags or alt descriptions. That's a good
Yeah.
idea, and um, yeah, I always find it when I'm working with SEO companies, because I've worked with them a bit on helping create content for clients, and I find it really hard getting the right mix between SEO being effective and it being meaningful and a good read for
Mm.
the reader. Like some of the SEO stuff I read from these agencies, it's just generic, fluffy content that doesn't mean anything. And the internet's so full of that nowadays. And so, but
Yeah.
I understand what they're doing because from their point of view, they're just driving keywords and traffic. Like the blog is simply Google food, is how they're viewing it. It's, they're giving it the right keywords, the right headings to make sure that anyone searching for that topic is going to find that website. But from a customer perspective, it's not super valuable or meaningful. So that's I struggle a lot because I'm always updating their headlines or rearranging their blogs, and they're like, no, 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 that doesn't work SEO wise. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't, it's not a good, it's not a helpful read for the customer. So
Mhm.
that's a tricky thing to get right. And I know I'm guilty of always prioritizing the reader's experience over SEO, and that doesn't necessarily work in my favor. But to me, it's more important to have valuable content that people will read and resonate with than making Google work. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, Kate, but I'm going to take issue with what the SEO people are saying. Like, I understand that that's their job, and when they're tasked with, because like SEO is not a quick win game. That's a long game, and so I understand that anyone who's working in SEO is really trying to get fast results because they know that people get impatient and they don't want to wait. They don't want to pay for 6 months worth of SEO before they
Mm,
see results. So I totally get that.
mm,
But here's the thing, here's where that's kind of out of alignment with what Google says, because Google's updates to algorithms, what the place they're coming from is that they are trying to make Google customer centric. So
mm,
they're trying to meet people's needs.
mm,
So I'm going to sit with you and sit on your side of the fence and say that, although SEO is wonderful and you certainly need it, but you have to be mindful that Google is trying to provide any of its visitors, anyone who's going there and typing something into a search bar, it's trying to provide them the best answers because they want them to keep going back to Google. So
yeah.
that's not always about the perfect SEO headline.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I know what you're
Because at the
saying.
end of the day, people are reading this stuff. Google is just a set of traffic lights to direct people.
Mm-mm. That's right. Yeah. 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 So I guess because I know we've got to wrap this episode up because you've got things you need to get on with, family needs calling. But if we could summarize, I mean, I believe that doing the foundational work to at least research your keywords and make sure you're using keywords that your people are searching for. And there's you could do a whole episode just on keywords because
Oh, yes, we could.
yeah,
Maybe we should.
yeah, well, we need to get an expert in probably, but there's long, you know,
Long
short
tail
keywords
keywords.
versus long tail keywords and volume versus competitiveness and all that sort of thing. So it's about getting
Yeah.
a good mix of high volume versus low competition keywords and, all of that. So there is a lot that needs to be done around keywords and getting that right on your website so that it starts working for you. And that can go a long way, just getting that stuff right. And that's what I think they call static SEO, isn't it? They're getting all the basics and the foundations right. And then a lot of agencies will tell you that you need to invest in ongoing dynamic SEO, which is looking at the data and tweaking it as you go along and updating.
Fresh
And
content and
yeah,
yes.
which I have invested in the past and it's paid off to some extent, I think. But then I've pivoted in my business and it's all gone to, so it is something that does require attention and focus in the long term, and just getting some of those basics right. And using AI is a great tip to just help you with some of those fundamentals. But at the very least, get your business registered on Google, post good content on there regularly from your phone, if possible, as Sam's pointed out. Getting that the back end sorted, making sure your headings and your structure is correct on your website. It sounds like those are some of the basic things that we can advise people do. And then, yeah, if you need good contacts for SEO, reach out to us both. I think we could both point you in the right direction because there are agencies that I've definitely been ripped off by in the past. So yeah, making sure you reach out to someone who's trusted and got that good relationship, and you know that they're going to do their best to deliver value for you. That's important as well. So if you need contacts in that space, reach out to us both. And do you have any closing comments, Sam?
Yes, I do, because today is one of the days where I'm going to say that SEO is never and should never be considered a standalone marketing tool. In any marketing you do, you've got to have a multi-pronged approach. And anyone that is investing solely in SEO, I would say, is doing themselves a disservice, because SEO has a role to play in a much bigger picture. We have to remember that.
Yeah, which includes other things like social media marketing.
Yes.
And
your branding and all the things.
Your messaging, all of the things, yeah, which we'll attempt to work through as part of our business wheel that we, want to cover off different topics.
We're going to talk through, yeah.
Yeah, so lovely to see you again, Sam. Go do your family things, and I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Kate. See you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.